Russ Vought has been the guy for the last 4 years who's been developing the plan to take down the deep state. That's Russ. And he's going to be right there at OMB to execute that plan.
President-elect Donald Trump naming more MAGA loyalists to his incoming administration last night, including Russell Vought, co-author of Project 2025, this to lead the Office of Management and Budget. Former NFL player and leader at the America First Policy Institute, Scott Turner, to lead the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. And Scott Bessent, a billionaire hedge fund executive who formerly worked for George Soros, to be the next Treasury Secretary. I stumbled a little bit there, and I'll explain why. Joining me now is Tara Setmeyer, former GOP Communications Director and co-founder and CEO of the Seneca Project. All right, Tara, welcome. Let's take a listen to this together. Here it is.
Some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative. They come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is.
I know nothing about Project 25. I haven't seen the document. I don't intend to really see the document. And it's a group of people that got together that wrote some kind of a dream document for them. But it has absolutely nothing to do with me.
I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it.
Well, Trump has named at least 4 other nominees who do have direct ties to Project 2025, those being Tom Homan, Trump's pick for border czar, John Ratcliffe, Trump's planned nominee for CIA director, Brendan Carr, his selection to head the Federal Communications Commission, Pete Huckstra, Trump's selection for ambassador to Canada. Trump previously attempted to distance himself from Project 2025, as we heard quite clearly there. So what does this tell you, though? His choices, what does it indicate?
Well, it indicates that Donald Trump, as we know, is a lying liar who lies. And the proof was there before the election that he absolutely did know about Project 2025. Over 100 of his former Trump administration officials or people who worked with him co-wrote it. And so we tried at the Seneca Project to put out information explaining this early on throughout in the summer during the campaign to show people, like, when you vote for Donald Trump, you're not just voting for him. You're voting for the rogue gallery of degenerates that he'll be surrounded by. And this is their plan. They spent the last 4 years laying out this plan of how they want to dismantle our current system of government. And now they're telling you the truth. I mean, Donald Trump tried to coffee boy Project 2025. I don't know who that is. I've never heard of it, never read it. Well, chances are he probably didn't read it because we know Donald Trump doesn't read. But he damn sure did know what Project 2025 was, and he was surrounded by people who not only knew what it was, but co-authored it. J.D. Vance wrote the foreword to a Project 2025 book. I mean, he was surrounded by them. So this is not a shock to those of us who were sounding the alarm for months.
Speaking of alarm, an alarming number of Trump's picks are accused of sexual misconduct. Matt Gaetz, who have since dropped out of the running, was the subject of an FBI probe over sex trafficking allegations, which he denies, and again, no charges were filed. Defense Secretary pick Pete Hegseth was accused of sexually assaulting a woman in 2017. He wasn't charged and claims the encounter was consensual. Health and Human Services pick Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's been accused of groping his teenage babysitter. Trump's pick for Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, is the target of a recent lawsuit that alleges she was aware of sexual exploitation of children during her time at the WWE. I mean, Tara, there was a time when allegations of sexual misconduct would completely end a political career. It wouldn't put you in the president's inner circle. Has Trump just normalized this type of conduct?
Absolutely. Not only Trump, but the entire Republican Party. All MAGA has taken over. Character doesn't matter anymore. When I was a Republican, character mattered. I remember those days. Part of the reason why I left the Republican Party, because there is no integrity. There is no bar low enough at this point. And the fact that we're not just talking about one or two, we're talking about several people who are credibly accused of pretty significant sexual misconduct. That is abhorrent, and it should be embarrassing. But it goes to show you that it flows from the head. As soon as the Republican Party turned a blind eye and shrugged at the Access Hollywood tape in 2016 and still supported Donald Trump, we knew that we were on a path of character no longer mattering. I mean, the list is so long. And I challenge all of the women who voted for Donald Trump, if they're proud of this, if they can look their daughters in the eyes and say, yes, I voted for someone who has no regard for women, for you, respect for you, for us, or for the safety of women, because this is what they voted for. And we tried, and organizations like ours pointed this out. What was at stake for women? And when you put people like this who have no regard for women's rights, for women's autonomy, respect for women, what does that say to the young girls in this country, to the daughters who are coming up in this and looking at who's in power? It speaks volumes about who you put at the head and who you put at the top, who you represent as leaders. This is the type of leadership. I think it's disgraceful and it's embarrassing. And I think for the women who voted for Donald Trump, they really need to have a conversation with themselves about if they're proud of this choice.
Let's take a listen to this. It is from Trump's new pick for Attorney General. We'll point out, of course, it is a woman. It's Pam Bondi. Take a listen.
When Republicans take back the White House, and we will, you know what's going to happen? The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated, because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows. But now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated.
How concerned are you about that promise?
Very concerned. I mean, just because she's not accused of sexual assault or sex trafficking the way Matt Gaetz was, doesn't mean that she's necessarily any less dangerous when it comes to executing Donald Trump's agenda of retribution. She has said it. She's been vocal about supporting Trump and his agenda to do that, to dismantle the DOJ. She said the prosecutors should be prosecuted. She was standing next to Donald Trump during the big lie in 2020. She stood by him and was a big perpetrator of that. And not only that aspect of it, it's questionable whether she's corrupt or not. She took a $25,000 donation from the Trump Foundation at a time when the Trump University scam was being investigated by several state attorney generals across the country. And we all know about the scam that turned out to be. And that went away in Florida when she got that, her campaign got that donation. So, I mean, this is not someone who necessarily would be, would pass muster in another normal type of transition, but there's nothing normal about this. And I hope that the advise and consent aspect of the Republican Senate, that they take a look at these people and at least not make it easy for them. They need to be held to account for their potential corruption and whether they're going to uphold the law according to the Constitution, not Donald Trump.
One more question for you, and this is about the Treasury pick, Scott Bessent, who's a little-known but successful Wall Street investor who became one of Trump's top donors. And here's why I kind of stopped for a minute in the script leading into you. He's also a former protege of Democratic mega donor George Soros. And Soros' name, as you know, is often invoked negatively by the right, indicating some sort of an East Coast moneyed elite. But Trump's advisors and cabinet picks are literally billionaires, and in this case, worked with Soros. Are Republicans concerned at all about how that's going to play with their base?
Clearly they're not. I mean, this is not our grandfather's Republican Party. Shoot,